Good day, sports fans. Today we have with us a former UFC middleweight contender, a Sanda world champion, former Sanda world champion, and former Strike Force champion and actor, Mr. Kung Lee. Mr. Lee, how are you this morning?
I am doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And also with me today is my co-host, Brian the Godfather Yalung.
Yes,
What's up, bro?
good evening here from the Philippines, and good morning to Mr. Kunli.
Yeah. Well, it's almost good afternoon, so
Okay.
we're close enough.
All right, Mr. Lee, let's get right to it. Yeah, I want to ask you about the case, about the just certified or which was certified in December of last year, the class action lawsuit against the UFC. So after it's already been certified, what's the next step?
Actually, we're still waiting for what the judge has in that certification.
Okay.
So he hasn't released that yet, but once he releases that, then there'll be a lot more news going on it. But he already said that he was going to certify it, and then all of a sudden, like a few law firms started reaching out to the fighters and telling them that they have to sign up with them in order to get their maximum payout. And so, as you see, there's these other law companies knowing that since the judge already said that it's going to be certified, now they're all trying to like zoom in and stick on like leeches to try to make take advantage of these other fighters that already like work so hard for their money. And there's class actions for 1,215 UFC fighters from the period of like a 10-year, but now we're going to add an extension to that for all the other fighters for back pay as well. So it's going good, and we definitely feel that this is like when you're in a fight and you got the opponent on the ropes. We definitely got the UFC on the ropes.
Okay, and you and you and John Fitch are leading the effort, leading this effort, right?
Believe it or not, there's someone from the Philippines too. It's Brandon Vera, right? So
Yes,
it's
yes.
me, John Fitch, Nate Corey, Brandon Vera, Javier Vasquez, and I'm missing um, I'm missing a few other names. It's not coming to my head. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Is this has this become an advocacy for you guys?
We've been on this for like almost 7 years now. So we did this more for the other fighters, and once I joined up, Rampage ended up stepping out because he wasn't done fighting yet. So and plus he still wanted to fight for the UFC, so he stepped out. But then they moved forward with my name and Brandon and all the other guys moving forward to make this a class action against the UFC.
Were there other fighters who fought within that 10-year time period who you spoke to but is reluctant or hesitant to join the class action?
Well, we represent 1,215 fighters, so we just told them we could be the ones representing it and pushing it while they continue to make a living. Because as the fighters don't make that much. By the time managing fees and camp fees and corner fees and all that comes out, what's left. So which is there's been a lot of like um, secret high fives to me. I can't speak for the fighters, but yeah, it's been definitely a long period, but we've made a lot of um, noise, and look where we're at now. A lot of people didn't even believe that we would get so far. So
Well, before you joined the UFC, are you aware of any other attempts or efforts to establish a union or to get the management to sit down with the fighters and come up with a CBA or a CBN?
well, there's been a lot of attempts, but like MMA FA is the group. It's more like an association instead of a union. But MMA FA has been fighting for the fighters for like over 10 years now. So they know all the ins and outs. There's this attorney named Rob Macy who I talked to. Rampage brought me into to meet him. He's the one who brought me onto the case and broke down everything that I needed to know about the case. And then so I figure I have a son, Anthony, who really wants to fight. So between Anthony and all the other fighters that I know, I figure, it's something that I needed to do to step up and help all the other fighters.
Are there other promotions who are open to having an agreement, sort of an agreement between the promotion and the fighters? Are there promotions who are open to discussion?
I think the only other promotion that does anything is Scott Coker. He's my old promoter. He once was the president of Strike Force, and I had a good run with him. And then UFC bought Strike Force out to monopolize the market. As you see, UFC has bought out WEC. They bought out Pride, and then they bought out Strike Force. So there's really nowhere for you to go. And now Bellator was kind of rebooted by Scott Coker, but they don't do pay-per-views, and they can't compete like with someone like UFC when UFC they're like the 400-pound gorilla, the giant that everyone's up against, and they cornered the market pretty good. So it's always work in progress.
Well, but Mr. Lee, what's your ideal share for the fighters? For example, revenue, TV revenue, ticket sales, and all that. What's the ideal for you? Ideal share that the fighters should get, because their image, their name is being used, yet they're not making money off of it.
A lot more than what they're getting. That's all I can say. I'm not an expert, and that's why our lawyers and the team that we have will bring in someone that will break down how much money the UFC made in each event and what would be a fair cut for the undercard all the way up to the main event. That's I don't know how that works. That's just a brief breakdown or summary of what I was told that the goal was.
Has there been any consultation or discussion with other leagues, with the NBA, MLB, MLS, NHL?
There was a lot of talks, but right now, like the plaintiff, like all the fighters that's involved, we also have food to and family to take care of. So we just kind of like let the lawyers do their work, and then we go over, and that's kind of like the basics of it. I can't break too much down, because it's until I get the green light from my attorneys to shed more light than I could. But right now it's what I'm telling you guys has been talked about with many other interviews already.
Okay. Before I turn you over to Brian here used to compete in Taekwondo. So Brian, your turn.
Thank you for the cue. I was gonna ask that actually. When I was going through your bio, Mr. Lee, I noticed that you did take up Taekwondo when you're only 10. It was because of bullying. Could you run us through that? What happened when your mother enrolled you in Taekwondo? Because I can relate.
Yeah, I came over to America very young. 2 weeks before the 1 week before the fall of Saigon fell. My grandfather was a chief of police, or former chief of police of like 5 different cities. So it's like a colonel's rank. And then the U.S. government says that basically at that time Saigon's about to fall. So him and his kids and family have 2 hours to get back here. Once each to get evacuated, and now coming to America with all the with what's going on with all those lives, with all the soldiers who have died. It was a tough time. There's a lot of racism going on and bullying going on, and and I didn't speak that language at that time, but by the time I'm 10 years old, I was speaking it and I understood a lot more, and that's when the bullying started. Just my mom put me in Taekwondo, and I was off and on. I didn't stay in the martial arts till I got out of second year in my college. After my wrestling, then I got back into the martial arts, But like the first, when I was 10 years old, I only stayed on for like probably a little under a year, and then I found wrestling, and then I got back to the martial arts, and the rest is history.
Okay. So you didn't really push deep in the Taekwondo scene, am I right?
Yeah, well, I got my black belt in
Okay,
Taekwondo.
all right.
And, I fought in plenty of Taekwondo tournaments. I got disqualified a lot for excessive force, and drawing blood. So I knew that I needed something more like full contact, where I can knock someone out, or throw them on their head. And then I found Sanda, Sancho, and then I was able to represent USA 3 different times, and then bring home 3 different medals, 3 bronze medals, and then I turned pro, and then it's been good.
So you're talking about the old school Taekwondo where it was really physical.
Yeah.
Because right now they're relying on points. This is something that I've discussed with some of our top Taekwondo practitioners. Yeah.
But even back then, it was there was a lot of rules,
Mhm.
and unless you're really good at scoring those points, then I was just, like, really aggressive, and like whenever people do spin kicks, I would push side. They spin. It's hard not to hit them in the back. Sorry that they're playing over me. So it's just and there of course there's a lot of politics too when you get higher up in the tournament.
Mhm.
But I think I found my passion. I found the art of punching, throwing, and then eventually I got over to MMA, which I feel like top of the food chain.
Right. Okay. I was gonna ask if this was one of the reasons why you got into kickboxing, or what did help you in your fighting with the kicks?
Oh well, I got into Sanda, which is
Mhm.
I was able to implement my wrestling too. So
Mhm.
the punching, kicking, and throwing was very exciting for people to watch. And at that time, I did a lot of Greco-Roman, so I was able to catch kicks and throw a lot of people on their heads.
All right. And I think Vince, I think this is something you were gonna ask about Sanda. Back to you.
Well, I mean, forgive my ignorance, Mr. Lee, but because I read on some articles that you were world champion on kickboxing, and then another article says Sanda. Is there a difference between kickboxing and Sanda?
There's a huge difference. I was the world champion in the Sanda arts.
Okay.
Just think of kickboxing with throws, or with any kind of takedowns like wrestling, or like Greco-Roman, where you can throw the guy from feet to back, land him on his neck, So if it was done right, I think people like the violence and the dynamic of the punch, kick, throw, putting it all together. You know.
And your son Anthony is into MMA, and I'm sure you've asked him more than once or twice if this is really what he wants to do. Is this really what your son wants to do?
Yes, this is really what my son wants to do. Yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned it to you guys, but he had his first Muay Thai, kind of like from this a promotion group called PMT. More they call it Point Muay Thai, but they let things go. But there's like age group, there's different divisions, and my son went in and won 3 different weight classes in 3 different divisions just a couple weeks ago, and now next week he'll be fighting in another one. Then 5 weeks after that he'll go to the state, and then after the state, a month after that he'll be going to the nationals.
So are you immersing him slowly but surely, immersing him in the different arts, just like you did?
Yeah. I want him to be able to fight in any style and be successful at it. You know, like Scott Coker, my fight promoter, he's the Bellator president now. He actually brought it up to me and made me realize that every single style that I competed in, whether it's point fighting, whether it's taekwondo, whether it's continuous sparring, then whether it's, you know, full contact to Shidokan, to what Shidokan is basically the triathlon of martial arts, where you start out with in karate, bare knuckle, and then you go to Muay Thai with throws, then you go to MMA rules with small gloves, and then so every event or every, you know, platform I went in, and I was able to win at the highest level. So he says out of all the athletes he's worked with, no athletes have done all that. And plus I also won the, you know, Triple Crown national title as a junior in high school. You know, I made high school All-American wrestling. Junior college, I was a junior college All-American wrestler. So like across the board, I was pretty successful in pretty much everything that I did. So Scott Coker just told me that, you know, I'm not sure if you realize this, Kung, but you know, you fought on many platforms and you became world champion on pretty much all of them. You know, which one's the best? And I said it's got to be against the fight against Frank Shamrock. You know, and that was him promoting the fight. So yeah, I've been blessed, and I, you know, also go on to fight in 2 main events in UFC and a co-main event, and then at the time UFC 148 was the biggest card at the time when I was the 3rd fight on for when Anderson fought Chael the 2nd time.
Mhm. And what advice have you given your son so far?
Yeah, I give my son as many advice as I could when you know, these subjects come up, you know, but it's mainly being humble, give God all the glory, and you know, just fight smart, but you know, fight smart, because you know it's longevity. It's all about longevity. Don't get hit, and then you know, do the hitting.
Are you coaching and training him as well?
Yes, I'm his coach. I train him, and you know, so far so good.
And how are you able to play the role of a father and at the same time the role of a coach and trainer?
You know, that's um, I got to make sure that I'm still the dad. You know, I'm there when he needs me. You know, when I have to be the dad. But then when I'm a coach, I coach on experience, because my oldest son, I pushed too hard and he quit. So with Anthony, I'm bringing him along slowly, and then you know, of course, he wants it faster, and that keeps him hungry. So you know, like he wants like more fights, but you know, we go to and we pick the right tournaments to go to, so he can do a lot of them instead of like flying all over. And then you know, sometimes you go to these big tournaments and you show up, you spend all this money, and then you get one fight. So we're looking for the tournament that, you know, has the most opponents that he can enter. And then if he is he able, if he wins his division, can he move up, or can he move, you know, somewhere else to compete against another champion in a different weight division. So I want him to, you know, experience the best, you know, competition, you know, that he could. But right now it seems like all the sparring between me sparring with him, and then all the pro and amateur fighters that he spars with, these tournaments are, you know, definitely more experience for him, and he goes in there and he does everything that he needs to do, like he works in practice. So that's great. So I know whatever he puts into practice is what he's going to get out, you know, during a match, you know.
Is there any pressure on Anthony to win? You're the son of Kung Lee and the Strikeforce champion, Sanda world champion. Is there any pressure on him?
You know, I really never bring it up, because when I bring it up, it might get in his head that there could be pressure. But I tell him, go out there and have fun. Go out there and when you win, you know, you give all the glory to God. You know, he's really religious. His faith is really strong, and you know, so yeah, he's enjoying it right now, and I don't see the pressure. Maybe he hides it really good, but you know, the fact that whether he's at the highest, most pressure because of the fight game, or stressed out about it, the key thing is, like, when I see him getting a little tense, I just always remind him, have fun. You know, this is all fun, and when you have fun, you're able to compete at a higher level. When you stress yourself out, you're just draining your energy. You're just, you know, taken away from being focused and thinking about your opponent, instead of thinking about, you know, the stress of it. And I tell them, you know, you're going to go out there and you're going to compete, and it's up to you how you perform. You know, you put in all this hard work, you want the hard work to pay off. So you got to go out there and execute. You have to listen to your corner. You have to, you know, just everything that you've been doing in practice, it's going to pay off, you know, and that's your mindset. You got to go out there and attack what's open and defend what's coming. And that's it. Blank out your mind and hit those openings. And then whenever they attack you, your defense will automatically take over. When you get to that level, you're fighting at a high level. And that's what he's doing. He's slipping punches. He's comboing. He's flowing from one kick to another. You know, a lot of people have been saying, oh man, that's the mini Kung Lee, you know, but you know, I don't want him to be stressed to be in my shadows or anything, but I'm just going to give him all the tools. I'm going to give him that drive, and I'm going to give him the coaching, and I'm going to give him the conditioning, everything that I could have done myself, or I already have done. It's going to benefit him because I've been there. So he knows the plan. He's excited about it. So, and now it's him talking about the tournaments, and it's him asking when we're going to do another tournament. Now it's him looking up the tournament. Hey, Dad, can we go to this one? I'm like, that's a far one to go. Let's stick to like 3 or 4 hours of driving, and not like 12 hours across, you know, in another 2 states, you know, away, you know. So yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, I try not to stress myself, because, you know, a lot of the times the energy from me can rub off on him. So I try to keep everything mellow and fun. And when it's time to get intense, I get intense with him, you know. And then, you know, just little things that, you know, you know, all my knowledge over the years, when I talk, or coach, it all comes down to the situation, you know. So far he hasn't had a situation where he had to really dig deep, and it's going to come down to who's going to win the next round. You know, so far he's been very dominant, but you know, I'm sure these fights will come up, and you know, his character will be tested. But I already know that he's going to pass it with flying colors, because his character has already been tested in life in many other situations. So I'm not worried about when it comes to the fight game. I think this is more the fight game becomes his vacation, becomes his getaway, becomes his, you know, outlet, and that's going to be very, very very difficult for other fighters to stop, because when you're having fun, when you're flowing on all cylinders, and then you're sparring with pros, you're sparring with amateurs, and you're working good with them. I see them breathing. He pushes them. This kid's special. He's going to be doing some stuff.
Okay, Mr. Lee, let's go to Shadowcast, where you're the CCO, the Chief Content Officer, and
Yeah.
you've been fighting for a very long time. How was the transition from fighting in an octagon to corporate, sort of fighting, figuratively speaking, fighting in the corporate world?
Well, when it comes to like Shadowcast, there was a lot of negotiation. There's a lot of ideas, but their technology's got to get up to a certain par for me to be able to give them storylines. I've been blessed by God to be able to tell stories really good, and I've written a few scripts, and I actually I'm in the final negotiation stage with a good friend of mine, Nick Ma. I'm actually staying at his house right now. We're in negotiation right now to figure out how we're gonna execute this project that I've been working on very hard, and that will I think bring a different action horror genre to the screens.
Has there been any offers of doing a movie on your life? I mean, you left Saigon before it fell, and then you migrated to America, and then all the bullying and discrimination at 10, and then you become a world champion in a martial arts. So was there any offer to a biopic on your life?
There's been books, and then my promoter Scott Coker wanted to do something like a biopic, like what you just said, but I don't think it's time yet. I think there's still a little bit more to do here. I think God's got me. He's got something planned for me, so I'm just I'm just here to serve him. So, and in the meantime, I can coach my son and be a positive role model and be the best I can be as a person, as a human, as a man of faith, and as a father and as a martial artist, so other people can understand having a martial art lifestyle, and be the best that you can be as a human.
Mr. Lee, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. This is to deviate a bit out of MMA and your work at Shadowcast. But in the past few years, we've seen a rise in cases of crimes against Asian Americans. You're an Asian American yourself. What are your thoughts about all this Asian hate?
I'm gonna be honest. I think this is part of the agenda. This is what they want to do. They want to divide and conquer. I'm sure people who's done their homework, they know who I'm talking about. I don't want this to be censored, so I'm gonna have to look for my legal loopholes so I can answer your question. But we're in some dark times, and if you're not woken up yet from what's going on, I don't even like to use woke, but I don't know. Too many people have been using it, and it's starting to slide into my vocabulary. But too many people need to understand, what's going on and what's happening, and it's better wake up before it's too late.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Brian, your turn.
All right. I'm gonna ask you some questions. It was actually thrown to me when they saw the poster. This was one tied up to the lawsuit. One was asking me, do you feel that there is now equal playing field in the MMA because of the lawsuit and the proliferation of promotions across the globe?
Of course, right now MMA is, I feel like it's way on the bottom of the totem pole on pay scale compared to like even most NFL kickers make more than some of the main event card fighters. and you put 3 fights together in 1 year, the kickers are still making more. So that's why we're fighting, to change that. And the biggest thing that would help that is we already have over 50 signatures of Congress about the Muhammad Ali Act for boxing, and bringing it over to MMA, so all the MMA fighters can have the right to free agency, the right for a fair market, and the right to negotiate against what the promoter has made on all the cards. So usually when something that happens, the promoter's got to let the fighters know, this is what I made on your last fight or someone of your equal caliber. So the fighter's agent or manager could have a better chance of negotiating the purse. As you know, in boxing, it's of course, unless you're Floyd Mayweather, you're getting way more, but the percentage in boxing is way more than what UFC is paying their athletes. UFC is hovering around 10 to 15% what they pay the athletes, and they're keeping the rest. The rest is profit. That's what we're fighting for. There's like, if you look up MMAFA, and then they're on Instagram, and you can go straight to the website. The website will break down everything for you. And then if you're part of that 1,215 fighters there, just know that when the work is done, you're going to get paid your fair share. It's not going to be these guys making empty promises because their lawyers, they even spend their own money to send out these FedEx packages, because they now that everyone's believing in what we've done for the last 7 years, everyone's trying to jump on like the money train. The money train should be kept just for the fighters. They're the one who risk their lives in the octagon. They're the one who risk their lives in the ring or in the cage, not these lawyers. These lawyers should just be leeches, and they're just being I don't want to use a word, but you know what I'm
All
Yeah.
right.
I don't want
Okay.
show to get censored because you have to beep every other word that comes out of my mouth being an F word, So
All
All
right.
right.
So, tied to that, this question was in line. Do you still think that the UFC is the all end of all of the sport?
um, UFC is definitely the like the NFL. You've made it to the NFL or the NBA or whatever it is. But as you saw,
Mm-hmm.
America, the basketball team, which is the most dominant in Olympic history because of all the pro athletes, you know, plays in the NBA, but they lost. So I don't believe that the UFC has all the best athletes. I believe at one time, look at when Strikeforce, before Strikeforce was bought out, we had Cain Velasquez, we had Daniel Cormier, we had
Yes.
myself, we had Ronda, we had Misha Tate, we had Jock Ray. Luke. There's so many names that you can name that was very successful in Strikeforce, and when they went to UFC, they became champion, and they became double champions like Daniel Cormier. And at that time, I think the only other person who was able to do that was Connor. But look at the dominant fashion, as well as how Connor did it, but look at how Daniel Cormier did it. That heavyweight and light heavyweight champion. So that's, and now you got all the top females in UFC. But at one point, they were all in Strikeforce, and a lot of the champions that became champion became champion was from Strikeforce. So I believe there's talent everywhere. There's going to be a lot of talent from ONE FC. We don't know until one day it happens, when the Muhammad Ali Acts really really benefits the fighters, and when they're able to compete against each other for multiple, like to unify the belts, it's gonna be a game changer. Then you'll know who the real top fighters are. Until then, UFC's got their claws and clamps down on this whole sport.
All right. So you mentioned ONE FC. So there are two names that came to my mind. One is Rich Franklin. I mean, that was that. Well, your spectacular win over him. Can you share something about that? I mean, is this? Would you say that this is the best fight you've ever had?
I say my best fight was against Frank Shamrock
Oh,
that
okay.
I ever had. But Rich Franklin, remember I was hurt bad in UFC 148 against Patrick Cote, but I was pushed to take the fight, and really didn't have a choice unless I wanted to take myself off the co-main event and main event and put on the back burner. So I took the fight anyways, and I'm glad I did, because I did realize studying tape and sticking to the game plan works so well. The best I can do at that time was do a lot of cardio, non-impact, because I hurt my foot really bad. Then I actually had elbow surgery like 6 weeks before the Rich Franklin fight. So God, like, again, all glory goes to God. I would have never have been able to do it without God. So
All right. How about Brandon Vera when he lost to Arjan Bular, right, in his last fight? Do you think he can still continue fighting in the heavyweight in one championship?
yeah, you know what? I believe he cut down to 205. Then right,
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
and then he lost there. When you cut weight, all it takes is a little bit of a wrong step, a wrong cut, and you're not even performing at 70%. I favor Brandon because he's my friend, but I know what weight cut's all about. And for someone who fights heavyweights and cutting all the way down to 205, that will probably hurt the performance, but take that away from the 205 champion and the double champion, right? That he fought, but it's just part of the game. No one can stay undefeated, or there's only someone's always going to be better than you, and someone's going to be always hungrier than you. And when you meet that person, you can still win. You just gotta be on your game, and you have to be like mentally, and your mindset's got to be on point.
Right. Speaking of hungry and mentally on point, I'd like to get your thoughts on Conor McGregor. I mean, what do you think is up ahead for him, especially after this injury he sustained against in his last fight?
That kind of injury is going to be hard to come back and become the old Conor. I don't know. I wish him, I wish him the best on a safe and a healthy recovery. But he's made enough money. He really doesn't even have to work anymore. If he does, then hopefully when he does come back, success comes with him. But I don't see it. I think this fight is that kind of injury. It's gonna be tough to recover from.
Do you agree? There are some people who are saying that he lost his start to fight in MMA, and it's more about the money right now for Conor.
You know what? You when you have someone as Conor, I can't speak for Conor,
Mm-hmm.
but when you have someone who's tasted victory and becoming double champion, they're doing it because they want to become champion again. He's already had, like, look how much money he's made in his alcohol brand, proper. So I mean, how much money do you really need? I think a lot of times when it comes to it, you want titles, you want belts, you want that glory again. And I would hope that's what Conor wants, because he's made enough money already.
All right. Vince, back to you. Thank you.
Okay, you mentioned earlier about the Muhammad Ali law. So you guys were talking to these lawmakers, and were you talking about making changes in that law to include MMA and not just boxing?
Correct.
Okay,
We're working.
all right. Well, that's the that's the hope of everyone in the everyone who's behind you, Mr. Lee, in in establishing not a union, as you said earlier, but more of an association to protect fighters.
Yes.
Okay, and
That is.
all right, and okay, and another question: if you were in your prime right now, because we're seeing more and more MMA fighters go into boxing, so you have Anderson Silva beating Chavez Jr., and then you have Tyron Woodley fighting one of the Paul brothers. If you were in your prime right now, would you cross over to boxing because of a possible higher payday?
I'm not gonna lie. Of course. Why wouldn't I? If it's paying, like, for me, 2 or 3 times more, of course. And for some fighters, 10 times more, of course. You know, people are going to make the changeover. But the one thing sad about this is um, UFC does. The UFC is going to pick and choose who does it unless they release someone. As you saw, George St. Pierre wanted to be able to fight Oscar De La Hoya, but he didn't get a
Yes.
chance to because UFC shut him down. Why did that happen? Because UFC knew that fight would have been a mega fight and made both guys a lot of money. Then more fighters will want to do that. But instead, George St. Pierre got shut down. So, I mean, you, I mean, it's not hard to see. Excuse my Vietnamese, but all the bullshit that's happening. So it's not that hard. I mean, you do a little research, how things are being played right now. Same exact, not same exact thing, but people are being played right now with this pandemic. I call it the plandemic, but whatever, right? My personal uh, views on everything.
So okay. I had a question earlier, Mr. Lee. I forgot. Okay. So if if you were again, if you were in your prime in today's MMA, what other skill set would you add to your already multifaceted skill set?
You know, when you're a true martial artist, you never stop learning.
Hmm.
Of course, I'm gonna always keep implementing as many different moves and techniques and skills that I could to my arsenal because I'm the student of the game. There's only one master, which is God Almighty, the Most High, the Most Powerful. So, for me, I'm a student. I'm always gonna learn. I'm still learning now. So learning hasn't stopped for me just because I retired from fighting. I still train, not as long, but as much as I used to. Like the amount of training, I still do probably the same amount, but it's just not as intense and it's not like a fight camp. I just do enough to be healthy. I can do enough to, if I needed to protect my family and drop someone on their head and kick someone in their face. Yeah, I'm capable, and I'm sure I can hold my own against some fighters that are still active for at least one round until I gas out.
Okay. Aside from Anthony, are you training or coaching anyone else, any other MMA fighter?
I got a few students, I mean, more amateurs. You know, my focus right now is on Anthony, and then my family. My mother-in-law, and my wife, they've been asked to help out Zach Bagans on Ghost Adventures, and they're my mother-in-law is a shaman, and so she's very religious too. She's God is first, and then she that's crazy, but she's undefeated in 400 different exorcists. you know, exorcisms. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to witness a few of them. And yeah, whoever don't believe in the devil, know that he's out there and know that he's trying to sabotage your life. So
How about Mr. Lee? How about managing fighters? Have you ever
no,
considered that? Has that entered? No, never entered
only
your
person
mind.
I'm going to manage is my son. That's it. Yeah.
All right. And to would you also try and do what Connor did and be champion of two different divisions? If you were active today, would you
Of course.
attempt? You
Of
would try it.
course.
All right.
Of course. Fighters, um, we always want the medal or the trophy or the belts. And that's when we first started out. That's why we started out. When I first started out wrestling, I wanted those, you know, medals. I wanted to be champion. I wanted to, you know, be able to, you know, go to the state championships and win it in high school. You know, and then go on to college and, you know, but you know, it's, you got to have that mindset about the gold instead of the money, because if you're doing it for the money only, then you're not going to be able to, you know, um, I believe you won't get that high level of being like a champion of champions. You know, you can be champion, but there's, you know, there's good and there's great. So,
Are you friends with guys you've fought before? Any friendships
not
or
friends, but you know, I don't
respect?
hold any. I'm not friends with, you know, guys that I fought with, but I'm cordial with them. I'm cool with them. It's just, it was, you know, it was a fight, two top athletes, you know, getting inside the octagon and seeing who's better on that day.
And you, well, you're still acting. Or how did you get into acting? What made you get into acting?
That's a super long story. You know, there's, I'm sorry, but we're probably gonna have to do a two-part to this.
Yeah, we'll get into that in the second part,
Yeah,
Mr. Lee.
yeah, you're,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm like, you know, today's like a family day for me, and you know, just want to be able to spend some time with my family before, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, that's why I text you. If there's there until I sign my deals and have more to announce, then I'm not. I don't want to announce it before it even
Sure.
happens. So, good things are coming. You know, I feel like I'm doing God's work, and then you know, at the same time, I get to coach my son, and you know, since I've been through it and been the champion in multiple different division, I feel like he's exactly where he needs to be. He's actually a little bit further than what I expected. So,
All right. Godfather?
All right, I'd just like to ask Mr. Kumuli, um, your thoughts on the Filipino martial arts scene.
you know what? I came there a while ago. It's been a long time. It was like, I think after my fight against Rich Franklin, and I was starting to promote the Michael Bisping fight, and I went to the Philippines and I did a seminar out there. And you know, I think there's a lot of great great fighters, and I think like, look at Brandon Vera. You know,
Mm.
it's just a matter of time, and then you know, when more fighters from the Philippines, you know, and Asia, you know, starts to win these titles.
So aside from, I mean, have you heard about Team Lakay or something like that?
You know, yeah, I haven't really stayed up much in the last year with all the fights, because you know, it's been like the pandemic, and then you know, the world's been on lockdown, and like for me, I've been focusing on you know, writing, and you know, I'm putting together some projects. So
All
sorry, I
right,
can't answer
all right,
that.
no problem, no problem. All right, Vince, that's it for me.
Okay. Just one last question, Mr. Lee, and we'll let you say your final words before we let you go. And our apologies for interviewing you on a day that you're spending
Okay,
with your
no problem.
family.
No problem.
Um, what was aside from the fight where you fought with an injured foot? What was your other tough fights? Other tougher fights?
Well, one one there, I can actually say my foot wasn't completely healed, but I won, right? And another one, I was winning, but then I lost against Vanderlei Silva. I dominated the first round. I was winning the second round, and I just got caught. And I wish I had I wish there a lot of things would have went differently on that, but I lost. It's done and over with. But during my fight camp, um, uh, a fighter named King Mo, he was fighting at 205 at that time. He was my one of my main training partners, and he's also a really good wrestler. He got a good body slam on me, cracked up my rib, cracked or fractured one of my ribs when he slammed me. But I was still able to get in there and suck it up and fight. But definitely. I wish I would have came into that fight with a little bit better cardio, because when you hurt your rib, it's really, there's only so much that you can do.
All right, Mr. Lee, will your final words for our viewers?
God bless everyone. Thank you for, listening, and, have a great day.
All right, Brian.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kung Lee. I'm looking forward to that part 2. I believe we still have a lot of things to talk about. It was a pleasure
All right.
meeting you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lee, it was an honor. Thank you for taking time out to be with us.
Of
And
course, guys.
another episode of Sports for All has ended today with
What's
Mr.
up,
Kung Lee. Today with Mr. Kung Lee and Mr. Lee. Thank you again for joining us. And the Philippines, goodbye. So long.
Bye-bye.
Bye.